At the final parent-teacher conference, I, the homeroom teacher, had invited the parents. Though, my fiancé Amias took time off work to accompany his childhood friend Charlotte and her daughter instead. After the conference ended, Charlotte's daughter tagged me in the group chat. "At Teacher Lee, when will my dad come home? Can you give my dad back to me?" But I simply replied with Amias's and my wedding invitation, instantly setting off a firestorm. Amias, however, lost control and shouted at me, "Can you just stop this? Charlotte is a single mother struggling to raise her child all on her own. Do you even know how hard that is, you spoiled rich girl?" Later I cancelled the engagement and was transferred to Beijing. After learning the truth, Amias chased me to the airport, his eyes reddened as he gripped my hand tightly. "Lara Lee, can we start over?" The parent-teacher conference on Friday marked the final chapter of my teaching career. In 2 hours, I would head to the principal's office to hand in the final paperwork and bid a permanent farewell to this place that had worked for 6 years. Standing at the podium, I glanced down to see my fiancé Amias and Charlotte seated side by side like the perfect couple, a handsome man and a beautiful woman drawing the attention of nearby parents. "I really envy how close you two are," one parent said. "Emma's mom looks so young. She doesn't look like she has had kids." Exactly, the mother and daughter could be sisters standing together. Charlotte blushed, then shot me a triumphant look. The man beside her smiled down at Emma while straightening her workbook. Noticing my quiet gaze, he looked up at me. His eyes held complex emotions, flickering with a trace of pity. His lips parted slightly as if about to speak. My gaze dropped to the transfer request form already prepared on the podium, my fingers trembling faintly. I thought my heart was already dead. A week ago, with all my documents prepared, I had resolved to leave this place. But I never expected him to attend the parent-teacher conference alongside Charlotte, posing as a picture-perfect family before my eyes. Then what am I? What does this fiancé even mean to him? The horrifying scene before my eyes felt like a dull knife twisting in my chest with every heartbeat. The English teacher beside me noticed my distress, steadied me, and asked with concern, "Ms. Lee, are you feeling unwell? Would you like to step outside for a moment? I can take over the rest of the meeting for you, it's no trouble." I composed myself, nodded gratefully, and walked out of the classroom with my materials. Suddenly my phone rang. I glanced at the screen, took a deep breath, and adjusted my tone before answering. "Mom, I'll do as you said. Everything's set for next month, I'm coming home." Her voice choked up slightly on the other end. "That's good, just come home." 3 years had passed since Charlotte returned home. Not a single day went by without me living in nightmares. She was Amias's childhood neighbor who grew up with him. She went abroad for high school, got married, later divorced, and returned to the country alone with her young daughter. During her absence, Amias and I dated for 6 years, from college through our engagement, and built a home together in the city. This was as good as it gets. Until Charlotte, in a long gown, stood before me with a little girl by her hand. Amias introduced gently, "Lara, this is Charlotte, my childhood friend. And this is Emma, her daughter." Inexplicably, my heart clenched as I watched them standing side by side. Charlotte smiled sweetly and said, "Lara sis, I just moved back and I'm unfamiliar with everything. I'll need to bother Amias a lot going forward, hope that's okay?" They say a woman's intuition is usually spot on, and indeed, my unease was well founded. From that day on, Amias would leave the house under the pretext of helping Charlotte settle down, repeatedly standing me up for our dinners, anniversaries, and even my birthday. He even moved them into the neighboring school district house reserved for our future children and used his position on the school board to get Emma placed in my class. That house in the neighboring school district was meant for our children after we're married. How could you just give it away? Amias couldn't mask his irritation. "Picking on a single mother, Lara? I never knew you could be this malicious." Late at night after we'd gone to bed, the phone would sometimes ring. Amias would answer it quickly and step onto the balcony, shutting the door behind him. In the darkness, I'd silently open my eyes and watch through the glass as he softly comforted another woman from the balcony. Amias and I fought increasingly over Charlotte. Eventually, I grew so weary of arguing that I simply stopped. Until last week's engagement party. I wore a simple white gown, mingling with guests as I called Amias to hurry over. He kept saying he was in a meeting but would come as soon as it was over. The host had already called for him for the third time. Next up was the ring exchange, and all eyes were on the entrance waiting for the groom to arrive. I paced anxiously backstage and called him again, only to find his phone was turned off completely. Suppressing my anger, I smiled and toasted each guest, apologizing to everyone for having to reschedule the engagement party. Exhausted, I collapsed onto the couch at home and unlocked my phone. Charlotte's post stared back at me, "You were the joy of my youth, and the love of my life, heart." In the picture, Amias sat beside Emma, his profile slightly visible, an open workbook spread out in front of them. With a bitter laugh, I snatched the vase beside me and hurled it against the wall. Shards exploded across the floor, and I closed my eyes wearily. Amias and I started as a college romance, faced life's challenges, and lasted through the years. 6 years. My love had become a habit. Just one person, Charlotte, had easily destroyed all of this. I waited on the sofa all night. Amias never came home. I watched the sky outside gradually lighten, my eyes burning yet my mind strangely alert. 6 years I've loved enough. What are you doing here? Amias's voice brought me back to reality. I looked up at him as I stood. Is the parent-teacher conference over? He nodded and pulled out his car keys. Let me drop you off first. I need to get back to the office later. I knew this was his olive branch. He seldom compromised or softened his words toward me. Whenever I got angry, he'd give me the cold shoulder. It was rare for him to make concessions as he did now. I stepped aside and replied flatly, "No need for that. I have other things to do." He frowned in irritation, thinking I was acting up again. Gripping my wrist, he said lowly, "Stop making a scene." Emma was without her father at today's parent-teacher meeting. She didn't want the other kids looking down on her, so. In the past, I would have gone along with what he said, offering comfort and showing understanding for his situation. But now a flicker of annoyance stirred within me. I stopped and calmly met his gaze. "Amias, you're hurting me." He abruptly released my wrist. Ignoring him, I headed for the administration building. Amias, furious, started to chase after me to say something. Suddenly, Charlotte's tearful voice came from behind. "Amias, have I caused you trouble again?" Amias stopped dead, wheeling around to soothe her in a gentle voice. I gave a cold laugh and hurried away from that wretched place. "Oh, Ms. Lee, I had no idea you were our Director Lee's daughter." I had no idea. The principal sprang to his feet, holding my transfer application. "Director Lee has already called me. Everything has been arranged for your transfer. Don't worry, the approval will be granted soon." I gave a slight nod. "Thank you, Principal. My father is the head of the Beijing Education Bureau, and I originally studied education to succeed him. But after graduation, Amias insisted on staying in this city to start his business. I made the tough call and gave up the path my family had paved for me to stay behind. For years, my father was furious and refused to speak to me, while my mother would mournfully plead with me to return home every holiday. I had never been a dutiful daughter. As I held the transfer form with its bright red seal, a wave of relief washed over me. This wasn't just a paper, it was wings to my freedom. "By the way," I remembered, "could you please keep this confidential, Principal? Treat it as a routine teacher transfer. I don't want others knowing, especially the school board members." After a thoughtful pause, the principal said, "Rest assured, I promise this won't get out. Amias is on the school board. If he finds out I'm leaving, it will inevitably cause complications. All for Amias saying I want us to have a home." I abandoned my future and submissively became a housewife for 6 years. We had countless arguments over this. Amias would kneel beside me, sobbing, "Laura, I'm just terrified of losing you. You're so wonderful, and it makes me feel utterly insecure." Seeing his tears and pleas, I felt my heart soften again. Looking back now, a flicker of anger stirs within me. When I was recently promoted to homeroom teacher, he was very upset. Coincidentally, Charlotte had just returned to the country with her daughter. Charlotte would get jealous when he missed her calls and relied on him for every little thing. He relished it. I broke down sobbing, smashed furniture, and screamed into the phone demanding he come home immediately. Initially, Amias would patiently comfort me, but he gradually grew more impatient over time. Eventually, he would just stop talking altogether, slam the door, and walk away, leaving me alone to have my hysterical outburst and gradually cool down. Finally, I've come to my senses. I was a free dove, yet love blinded me, making me eager to become a caged canary. How absurd. Over the past 6 years, I had never felt this calm and at ease. Thankfully, I'm still young, and I never signed that marriage license. I still have the courage to start over. Once this clicked, every day I started devoting more and more time to the library and training room. Although I'm about to transfer back to the Beijing Education Bureau, I still have a lot to catch up on. I need more research results and certificates to gain a foothold in my new position. The last time I humiliated Amias at school, he stopped coming home. I know he is sulking. He is waiting for me to apologize. He's sure I can't tolerate the silent treatment and will crawl back to him like I've done countless times before. Though Charlotte has been posting actively on her moments. Finally, summer vacation is here at last. I can travel with the two most important people in my life. The fireworks at Disney are beautiful. Watch them with your loved ones. In the photos, the three of them stand side by side under the dazzling fireworks, looking happy and content. The comment section buzzed with parents' well wishes and envy. Recalling Amias's promise to take me to Disney for my dream. With a sneer, I idly scrolled through my phone and calmly liked her post. A rotten cucumber, whoever wants it can take it. After a few days, she finally gave in and sent me a private message. Lara, sorry about this. I hope having Amias hang out with Emma these past few days didn't cause you two any trouble. Amias said he hasn't had this much fun in a long time. I smirked and replied, thanks for keeping him entertained. Charlotte hadn't anticipated such magnanimity from me. The typing indicator lingered, yet no reply came. I sensed her resentment through the screen and it made me quite happy. Amias hasn't been home these past few days. I get to sleep in every day without worrying about waiting on anyone. The rest of my time was dedicated to studying at the library. I was so stupid to play the role of both maid and secretary for Amias all this time. From now on, Lara will only belong to herself. I stretched lazily and cheerfully started packing my things. My transfer request was approved this week, so I started packing my belongings. When I got home today, I saw a familiar figure sitting on the sofa. Amias was back. He looked at me, his brow furrowed. Why is the house so messy? Just straightening up. So now you care about the home? He sneered coldly, believing me. Without a word, I just kept packing. Noticing that I wasn't speaking, his expression softened slightly. I've told you not to obsess over your career. Why not relax a little? Join the wives' circle for tea, chats, spa days. Wouldn't that be nicer? I looked up sharply. Is that all I'm good for? He frowned again, his tone impatiently harsh. Why are you dredging all this up again? I cut him off with a wry smile. I remember the first time you said you liked me, I was standing at the podium, not the stove. Amias was momentarily stunned into silence. When he spoke again, his voice was much softer this time. Lara, I just want you to lean on me more. So your life will be lighter. I didn't bother responding and went back to sorting my things. Suddenly my phone buzzed with a notification from the class chat. Emma at Teacherly, when is my dad coming home? Emma at Teacherly, could you please give my dad back to me? Reading those two messages, my heart sank. A smoldering fire of anger and frustration stirred, choking in my chest. Emma's two barefaced messages sparked an immediate firestorm in the group, with parents' messages flooding in one after another. Oh my God, what's going on between Teacherly and Emma's dad? Isn't this straight up home wrecking? Wow, this is some serious drama. I thought Emma's parents were happily married? Emma's mom, if you need a lawyer, I know someone. Don't believe everything you hear, kids say nonsense sometimes. You're defending that woman? What does that say about you? The group chat erupted like water hitting hot oil. Clearly, Charlotte was mobilizing public opinion to force my hand. I'd planned to leave gracefully, but since someone forced my hand. Amias started toward me when he noticed my look, but Charlotte's call cut in just then. Amias glanced at me, catching my mocking expression but baffled by it, and with frustration and agitation, he turned and headed to the balcony to answer the call. As the argument in the group chat escalated, I scrolled through it and, despite my fury, calmed down. This exclusive private school commanded premium fees, attracting families of considerable wealth and influence, with the group parents being prominent figures across various industries. Amias had placed me in this teaching position to network with influential wives and pave the way for his political career. I scoffed. I wasn't some lady seeking connections, I was the trueborn heiress. If anyone was currying favor, it was them scrambling to fawn over me. Charlotte quickly ingratiated herself with the wealthy ladies from day one, hosting gift exchanges and afternoon teas that generated quite a buzz. Amias preferred gentle, dependent women, so Charlotte obediently slipped into lace dresses and played the part of the canary in a gilded cage. He valued a supportive wife, so Charlotte set her sights on becoming Mrs. Amias as her ultimate ambition. But a bird in a gilded cage, however gilded, must always fear being replaced. Yet now here she was, baring her claws and coming at me. With an apologetic look, Amias sat down beside me after finishing his call. "Lara, Charlotte just filled me in. She said Emma was just being mischievous and didn't know any better. Try not to let it bother you, okay?" I remained cold and ignored him. "Tomorrow I'll ask Charlotte to invite you to dinner and make a formal apology to make amends." I pressed my lips together. She smeared my reputation in a group that large. She owes me a public apology. "Lara, that's completely unreasonable," he suddenly snapped. "Emma's in that group too. What do you think she'll make of this? You're her teacher, for heaven's sake." His yell made me flinch. "And have you considered how they're calling your fiancé the other woman?" He realized he had lost control and muttered irritably, rubbing his forehead. "The semester has ended. I'll handle your resignation shortly. Settle in at home and leave these rumors behind." I looked at the man before me, and an overwhelming sense of absurdity and horror washed over me. Was he so bewitched that he would betray me to this extent for Charlotte? 6 years and over 2,000 days together, all of it has come to nothing. He didn't even care about his fiancée's reputation. This was more than mere infidelity. At that moment, my trust in his character shattered, and a bitter laugh escaped me. Had I truly been so bewitched as to waste 6 years of my youth on someone like this? The last shred of respect and decency I held for him dissipated, leaving nothing but utter disgust for this man. Fine. Have it your way. I was quitting anyway. When Amias heard this, relief washed over him, surprise flickering across his face as he stepped forward to embrace me, his tone softening. "That's my good girl. Once things settle down, we should start planning our wedding." He drew me close, nuzzling my neck as if we were still in the honeymoon phase. I subtly avoided his touch and said flatly, "I'm tired. I'm going to bed." He paused, on the verge of lashing out, then seemed to recall what I'd just been through. Swallowing his anger, he said flatly, "Fine, get some rest. I'll handle the rest." I grabbed my laptop and headed to the study. As I closed the door, I glanced at him in confusion. Amias seemed different lately. Giving me an out like this was unlike him. Had he suddenly found his conscience? I didn't care about any of this anymore. I was checking my flight ticket for Saturday night at 7:30. This was my first time meeting Charlotte alone, and as expected, it would probably be the last. We met at a cafe not far from Amias's office, making it convenient for him to rush over and play the hero. I swirled my coffee, sneering inwardly. "Lara, you wanted to see me?" Charlotte arrived in a white dress, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, and took the seat opposite me, playing the part of a naive, innocent girl completely unaware of the world. I skipped the small talk and slapped my phone on the table. "You sent these 2 messages in the parents group, didn't you?" I'm sorry," I raised my hand to cut her off. "Drop the act. It's just us here." She stared at me, then suddenly laughed. "Lara, you're not the perfect wife he claims after all." "What's this about? Couldn't we keep things dignified? However much you carry on, Amias won't love you more." I locked eyes with her. "Who's being disgraceful? You're the one who took this to the class group. I'll make way for you too, but smear my career and you'll regret crossing me." "Career, my foot. Quit playing the strong independent heroine. This is only about Amias. If you'd just leave him, none of this would be necessary." Hearing the expected response, I smiled. "Aren't you tired of being the other woman all these years, Charlotte?" Her face contorted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "I'm not the other woman," she snarled. "Where were you when Amias and I were childhood sweethearts? Those years you had were stolen time. You stole my life. Do you even realize that?" Seeing how agitated she was, I only felt more amused. "Even if you ruined our engagement ceremony, we've already signed a prenuptial agreement. The house you're living in is under my name, and I own 20% of Amias's company. However you spin it, you're technically the other woman." Charlotte's grip tightened on the cup, and she raised her hand as if to splash it at me. But before she could, I swiftly poured a steaming cup of hot chocolate all over her. The dark brown chocolate dripped from her hair onto her white dress, completely ruining it. She looked like she'd just tumbled into a mud pit. She shrieked uncontrollably, "Are you out of your mind? Lara? You absolute lunatic." I pulled out 2 bills, folded them neatly, and placed them under the saucer as a cleaning fee. I wiped my hands deliberately and continued. "Besides, I've already called the police. There's no reasoning with someone as love-struck as you, but you should know that public slander is a criminal offense. I won't drop the charges. A sentence under 3 years in prison will go on your permanent record." "Did you really think I was sitting at home crying all this time?" As I watched her gnashing her teeth, I nodded in satisfaction toward the space behind her. "I can see you'd like Amias to be Emma's father, but I'm afraid this child is better off being raised by her biological father." Charlotte's anger gave way to stunned disbelief as she whirled around. A disheveled man with a dangerous gleam in his eyes approached and clamped down on her arm. "Damn you, bitch. Made me hunt all over. Think you can pawn my daughter off as some rich man's stepdaughter? Her damn father says no. Thomas, Charlotte's ex-husband. They met in M country, where Thomas immediately launched an intense courtship upon meeting Charlotte. He showered her with gold jewelry and designer goods, playing the part of a wealthy heir to perfection. Utterly charmed, Charlotte swiftly married him and they had a daughter, Emma. After Emma's birth, Charlotte discovered Thomas was actually an illegal immigrant, penniless and saddled with massive debt. Terrified, she fled back to her home country overnight with Emma to seek Amias's help. It's a shame it was hidden so well, but I found it. After seeing the rumors in the group, I promptly had someone investigate the whole story and then directed Thomas to this location. Thomas was a notorious thug who'd finally caught Charlotte, and he wasn't about to let her go easily. Thomas yanked Charlotte's arm, dragging her toward the door. "You bitch, dare to run away from me? Emma will always be a Thomas no matter where you hide. How much payoff did you take to pawn off Amias's bastard child? You will settle this debt." Charlotte trembled all over in terror, shrieking, "I don't know him. Help me. He's a stranger." "Shall I call the police, ma'am?" Thomas pulled out their marriage certificate and slammed it onto the table. "Lawfully married. Now fuck off before I make you." Understandingly, I stopped the waiter. "Don't worry, I've already called the police." Before the words had left my mouth, Amias finally arrived. His eyes landed on me first, brow furrowing as he demanded, "What are you doing here?" "I told you I was busy today." "Amias." He froze, then turned to see his beloved Charlotte sitting on the ground in a dirt-stained dress, utterly disheveled. A dark blur flashed as Thomas knocked Amias to the ground with a punch. At Charlotte's scream, the two men tangled in a fierce brawl. I took a seat on a bar stool, eating fresh tiramisu while awaiting the final scene. In the distance, police sirens grew louder. Satisfied, I picked up the neatly arranged folder waiting beside me. Everything would finally come to an end. I compiled all the property agreements between Amias and me, our romantic photos and records from university through our careers, Charlotte's history with her ex-husband, and the full video footage from the cafe into a file. I designed the folder cover as a mock engagement announcement for us and included it in the package sent to the group. All the photos and records of our sweet moments were proof of the love we once shared. 6 years together, I'd compiled this photo album of our memories to show at our wedding. The library desks where we buried ourselves in books together, the graduation ceremonies we attended side by side, our first move into a new home to live together, and all the everyday items we bought to furnish that little space. Snapshots of our travels to various locations and meals we enjoyed together. But at some point, Charlotte had crept into our shared timeline of memories. The love we once shared, now tainted, twisted into a blade. How ironic that this decayed love had turned into a blade. I pulled it from my chest and stabbed it mercilessly at this pair of cheaters. No sooner had the invitation gone out than it stirred up greater waves among the circle of affluent wives. If Charlotte's earlier messages had some wives quietly spectating without taking sides, my folder sealed their fate. A flurry of IDs surfaced mocking, scornful, outraged. These women, accustomed to privilege within their households, were most infuriated by homewreckers disrupting families. Some sharp-eyed wives recognized Amias's name and declared their firms would cease all business with him. The school's board of directors was also notified and, under pressure from all sides, suspended Amias temporarily pending review. In an instant, I sparked the second wave of public outcry, amplified by them. Some curious onlookers even reached out to curry favor with me, hoping to cozy up to the future Mrs. Amias. But I had the sense not to meddle. I wasn't Amias's wife, nor would I ever be. These women simply despised homewreckers, and Charlotte had threatened their common interests. As for me, I wasn't necessarily one of them. Additionally, I submitted all evidence for the defamation lawsuit against Charlotte to the police and refused to withdraw the lawsuit. Since that encounter at the cafe, Amias and I never saw each other again. Thomas had taken Emma, demanding a huge ransom from Amias, and the two were now hiding in the slums on the west side of the city. Charlotte was formally arrested on extortion charges, while Amias, frantic with worry over Emma, was simultaneously pulling every string to save Charlotte. After everything was settled, I pulled out my SIM card and tossed it into an airport trash can, leaving without a backward glance at this place that had been my home for 6 years. As I gazed down at the city from the plane, I felt no lingering affection, only hope for the new life ahead. Amias, from this moment on, our paths shall never cross again. When I learned Lara had left, I was stunned. I shut myself away and drank heavily alone. I turned off my phone and ignored anyone who tried to reach me. My life felt hollow, as if a part of me had been taken. That part was Lara. I'd always imagined her sitting quietly and contentedly on the couch beside me year after year, thinking that once I'd tied up all the loose ends, she'd be my happy bride. In my drunken haze, I remembered the first time I saw Lara. It was at the freshman orientation ceremony. She was the outstanding freshman representative, giving a speech on stage. I was a senior and the host that day. The girl in a little black dress stood poised on the podium, every gesture natural and graceful. I'd bet nearly every guy in the audience was watching her. Dazzling, not conventionally beautiful, but radiating a calm, effortless beauty, down to her clean, soft fingertips, making it impossible to look away. The second time I saw her was at the university mathematical modeling competition, where we were on the same team. As the only freshman and female member, we instinctively wanted to look out for her, yet she proved far more impressive than any of us had expected. We took first place with ease, and at the celebratory dinner, I subtly edged others aside, sat next to her, blocked everyone's view, and successfully caught her attention. From that day on, I often asked her out for meals, invited her to study in the library together, and joined various events with her. Her independence and excellence continued to amaze me. During this period, all sorts of guys hovered around her. Under the guise of studying, I always positioned myself closest to her. She liked ambitious men, so I maintained the highest GPA in my year. She admired intelligent and capable men, so I actively participated in various activities to better myself. She loved psychology and philosophy, which was why I delved into those fields just to have things to talk about with her. She was like the moon, serene and understated, lacking the dazzling flamboyance of other girls, yet naturally drawing people toward her. Finally, that summer after her freshman year, we officially started dating. Am I worthy of someone as exceptional as her? Never had I been so torn by such anxiety over a woman. Before Lara, the only girl I'd ever liked was Charlotte, the girl next door. Gentle and obedient, she required little from me yet focused entirely on me, so I could simply enjoy her devotion. But Lara always left me deeply unsettled. She was hardworking, exceptional, emotionally stable, and treated me wonderfully as a girlfriend, but why did I always feel like she didn't belong to me? If only she were a little more ordinary, a little more plain, maybe she would never leave me. Through persistent hard work, I landed an offer from a prominent local listed company upon graduation. Just then, Lara told me hesitantly that her parents wanted her to return to the capital to pursue career opportunities. Beijing is teeming with eligible young men. Would she still love me once she went back? I could never tolerate long-distance relationships, much less her being away from me even for a moment. Under my coaxing, she gave up her future and decided to stay, even having a fierce quarrel with her family over it. I felt an overwhelming satisfaction and relief. Now at last, she had only me by her side. I was her entire world. Charlotte's return to China caught me off guard. Dressed in the same white gown, she stood before me as docilely as I remembered. That familiar sense of control washed over me again. I helped her settle into her new place. When she sweetly called me Brother Amias, a pang of guilt made me glance at Lara. Yet she remained composed, without a trace of jealousy. Inexplicable irritation surged within me. That very calm and composure I'd once admired in Lara now struck me as utterly detestable. I began staying out all night, frequently accepting Charlotte's invitations knowing her ulterior motives, and conveniently forgetting Lara and my anniversary, even her birthday. Finally, as I had hoped, Lara began to break down, throwing things and crying. To my surprise and delight, I quickly rushed to comfort her. The more she broke down, the more perverse satisfaction I derived. That this unattainable flower was willing to assume such a girlish demeanor for me, it was deeply gratifying. But as her outbursts grew more frequent, my patience wore thin. Why couldn't she know when to stop? Charlotte knew where to draw the line. Her tears were perfectly measured to evoke sympathy without overstepping into annoyance. Now I see what a complete bastard I'd been. Only real tears are uncontrollable, a total breakdown. Behind those tears lay her genuine heart loving me. How many times did she cry where I couldn't see? When did the tears stop, and when did she submit that resignation? I flung the bottle aside and surveyed the apartment. Lara hadn't taken much, just some personal items, as if she were merely taking a short trip and would return soon. She vanished into thin air. I tapped into every connection to find her, but she was nowhere to be found. It was as if those 6 years had been nothing but an illusion in my life. My career took a major hit from that scandal. I resigned voluntarily, relinquished all my positions, and signed an agreement barring me from working in the same industry for 3 years. But things weren't nearly as bad as resigning made them seem. I simply wanted to make my actions harsher and more final. If Lara pitied me, maybe she'd come home. She was bound to forgive me, she loved me that much. Charlotte had been imprisoned, and I never saw Emma again. Thomas did visit me once. During our argument, he swung his fist and knocked me to the ground. In that daze, I recalled the scene at the cafe. It had been exactly the same. She took a bite of cake and gazed at me calmly. Straining to recall, I stared at her blurred features, searching for any trace of agony or reluctance in her eyes. Yet there was none. All I heard was Thomas's curses and the sound of slaps. I closed my eyes and fainted. When I came to in the hospital, my parents and a couple of former colleagues were there. I scanned their faces one by one, but Lara's was nowhere to be seen. No. It can't be. Lara would never be so heartless as to bring herself to avoid me after seeing me like this. I snapped, grabbing the stand and hurling it across the room as I demanded to see my fiancé. Son, she isn't coming back. She isn't coming back. You need to pull yourself together. You're frightening your mother. No. Impossible. I shook off her hand and strode out of the hospital room. Where could she possibly go? She wouldn't leave me, not when she loved me that much. I muttered to myself as I walked forward. Suddenly a group of doctors swarmed over and pinned me to the ground. Hurry! We have a psychiatric patient in crisis. Get the sedatives. Now. Innumerable hands pinned me down as someone wrenched my arm and injected a syringe. Everything went white. For a moment I could have sworn I saw Lara's face. She stood on the award podium, still in that black dress, her gaze clear but never resting on me. I struggled desperately, crying out, and used all my strength to try to run toward her. But the image receded farther and farther until it was finally swallowed by darkness. Despairingly I closed my eyes, knowing I had lost her forever.